I'm Megan.
I'm CJ.
And I'm Erika.
And this is the Her Podcast. Okay, friends, we have a solo episode for you today, and we are getting real and raw about business partnerships. I'm actually going to sit down and interview CJ and Erika because, as you guys know, they are business partners in their company, Carousel Media Management. So they are sharing the ups and downs, the highs and lows, and the learnings and growth that they have moved through together over the years. We are talking about the importance of leaning into your strengths, how to have hard conversations, and you guys, they are so good and have such great tips about having hard conversations and how they learned to navigate one another's needs in business and as friends and family. You guys are going to love this. There's lots of laughs, lots of great takeaways. Get comfy and turn it up. That's my one feedback for Stanley.
We're good. Yeah, it's not a no spill. It's supposed to be. Oh no, mine's a no spill. My new one is supposed to be a no spill. It has like these little grippy things.
What new one?
The one you bought me for Christmas.
It's a no spill.
I mean, I think it's supposed to be a no spill because it has these little like when you slide the straw in, right? Because these are just loose.
Okay.
The straw I have is like these little like things that almost like grip it. I don't think it's leak proof.
Keep it posted.
Yeah. I think it'll still spill.
The only water bottle that I've found that is actually leak proof is like Asher's little Yeti.
Oh yeah.
With like the flip top.
Oh yeah.
So I spent a extreme amount of money on a child's water bottle, but I was like sick of the backpack being soaking wet every day.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's
a soggy
like
backpack.
He cannot put it back properly. He's not going to do that.
No.
Right?
They need an easy situation.
Seriously. I'm just rereading my notes here.
You're fine.
Just familiarizing myself with. You are.
Oh,
I'm talking about you.
Like, that's your business partner.
I'm just getting familiar over here.
The one grabbing her tatas.
I'll always be grabbing my boobs. I'm embracing a no bra summer, so.
Are you?
Mm-hmm, for
I
a
love
lot
that.
of it.
Love that.
They're annoying, and I have big boobs, and they're so hot. Especially when it's this hot. I'm like, no, thank you.
It is hot. I'm actually wearing a little tank top that has a shelf bra in it.
There you go.
So.
What's a shelf bra?
Oh.
It's like built in.
It's like built in. It's just like an
Okay.
extra little layer with like elastic.
Yes.
And I remember having these tank tops when I was like in grade 9
Yes.
and thinking it was like the best. And then I went into Old Navy and I was like, hello, shelf bra. Sign me up. I bought 3. And now I'm like, should have bought it in black. Should have bought it in whatever. Yeah.
I've never heard the term shelf bra.
Really?
But I understand what it is. Like,
I would
know what
call it
is.
a built-in bra.
That's what
is
I would
call it. A
Yeah.
built-in bra.
Oh.
Yeah.
Maybe a shelf bra is like an
No,
antiquated term.
Maybe it's a Saskatchewan thing like bunny hug.
Maybe. Could be. Erica's never heard of it either though. So maybe it's a little bit of an older term.
Probably it's an older generation for the geriatrics in the room.
Listen, I'm feeling geriatric right now. So
No, you had a good sleep.
You look like you're
did.
about to go on a cruise too.
She is just dishing it this morning.
I am nautical.
in like the best way.
In nautical.
If you
in the
can go,
best way.
if you can go on a cruise, you have money. So like,
Well, she ain't
But
going on.
also,
she's
like-
not going on like a rowboat.
What a life.
She also wouldn't get in a rowboat.
What
but
a life.
What a life.
Live on a yacht.
Though I don't know if I'd want to go on a cruise because I watched a documentary about
No.
when the coronavirus hit.
Oh, no.
No, I would
None
never
of us
go
would
on
want to go
one.
to a cruise.
No.
Was that on Netflix?
I think so. Did you watch it?
No, my brother worked with a guy who was in it.
Wait, have we had this conversation?
Yeah, he literally, my
How
brother was working
awful.
on construction, like met this guy, and the guy was like, yeah, I'm like being interviewed for a Netflix documentary because I was on a cruise when Corona hit, and he said it was like, it felt like the end of the world. Like they were all like getting like put onto like army planes.
Yes.
Like mass, like they had no idea what was happening.
And you're literally like floating in the middle of the ocean.
I just
or were
don't-
they docked? I don't remember, but it's still wild.
I just have no desire to get on a cruise.
no.
Sounds
Not at all.
absolutely terrifying.
Right?
Mm.
Yeah. I don't want to be trapped on a
Plus,
boat.
if you get sick, like if you get a cold, you have to be in your room. Like you're confined to your room because
Quarantined.
it can't spread.
Yeah. No thanks. So you have a bunch of people who
But
bring
we'll get on a private yacht.
Yeah.
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 Like,
so
that's
there,
fine.
you look
Fine.
like you're getting on
Yeah,
a yacht.
thank you.
There you go.
I'm a yacht. I'm yachting.
I just
a
made
yacht
the cruise
queen.
sound because I called you geriatric.
Listen,
She's not.
I hope I have geriatric cruise money as I get older.
Yeah,
Listen,
of course you
I
will.
don't think
take it.
geriatric cruise vibes is a bad thing.
True.
Like, I think it's like her saying she's in her grandma era.
I
I'm like,
literally was just gonna
I do
reference
not
that.
think this is a bad thing.
True.
If you were like, Erika, you look like a 20-year-old university student, I'd be like,
Living her
what?
life, about to go to the Stampede in a cowboy
Yeah, Stampede life.
booth. About to find a hottie
never done.
with a body.
Hottie with the body. I keep telling Nick to put on cowboy hats, and he's like, no. I'm like,
Come, just say like, babe, I want you to, you're my hottie with a body. Just throw it on him. Just throw it
Or
on
should
him.
I?
Tell him
should-
all the things you'll do if he puts on a cowboy.
Hide it under a
Like,
pillow.
yeah, but for Nick,
when
I'll
he's
be like,
distracted, you just toss it on his head.
the thing is, you say that, and I'm like, the thing that I could say to Nick, if I was like, I want you to wear a hat, I'll be like, honey, I will take out the garbage, and I'll stop leaving my clothing tags all over the house. And he'd be like, all right, put it on me.
And
Hey,
then you'll
there
be
you go.
like, just
Win-win.
kidding, I'm never going to stop doing that. Did you guys see the Instagram reel, or it was probably originally a TikTok? That is like the super hot guy in a car. And he's like, if you had 24 hours with me, what would you do? And I couldn't say no. And this woman's like, all right, I'm going to need you to chop this tree down right here. And then I need windowsills on all of the house. And like, well, it was hilarious. I was like, hell yes.
I know, it's like,
Put that man to work.
like, you're really
Work,
strong.
work.
Get over here and lift this for me.
Can you carry my groceries?
We're going to make this 24 hours count. I'm not interested in anything.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
A day worth of work. Yes.
Okay, I gotta adjust myself.
Okay.
Yeah, I just feel like I like slide down.
Should we
It's
try
like
a pillow?
velvety.
Yeah, it's like I literally think it's like I'm sitting so straight, and then all of a sudden I'm like,
We should time lapse the video and see.
Just Erika like slowly like
She's sitting on the ground by the end of it. Somebody adjust the camera. She done. She's done.
Start standing. I look better standing.
She's
we're gonna
pacing behind the
podcast
couch.
I
standing.
can't
This
cross
is a
my
new-
legs now. I need a blanket.
It's a new format. This is what we'll do when we
We
get
need grandma
when we get a
blankets.
camera crew. I would.
Can you
In
imagine?
Knitted?
winter, I just had an idea.
Let's get them knitted, but it'll say her.
Yes.
Oh my gosh!
And
If you're a
we just, like,
knitter,
if you're a
reach
knitter.
out.
Hello. Do we have any knitters in the community
Or
who want to make
quilters.
us?
I'll go for a quilt.
Quilts
too.
are great.
Yes.
Custom
I need
blankets.
custom blanket.
For
my
winter,
gosh.
we'll just cozy up. We should get a little fire.
Well, I also because I got short, and then I could cross my legs.
True.
Anyways,
It's a standing outfit. Anyways, let's reel this in.
What brings us here today?
What does bring us here today? Today we're going to talk about you two together as a duo.
Two of us in the hot seat.
It's a double hot seat.
Oh, so it's extra hot,
Is it
extra spicy,
extra hot and spicy? Maybe there'll be extra tears. I don't know with the two of you.
well, and I just want
Are
to
we
preface
placing
this
bets?
by
I
being
don't
like,
know.
we're literally doing this episode after being together for 6 weeks.
Oh, this is the perfect timing. They're
I think there'll be
we
some
should have done
laughter.
it at the beginning.
They're all-
we
we
were
sh-
like, we love each other, and now we're like, okay.
We should have done the first half when you first arrived and the second half now, and then matched it up.
and showed us like our hair all crazy.
Yes. Like all put together,
Everybody's
and then just
twitching.
like at the end, like get me out of here.
Everybody's twitching. They're writing things down to each other and showing them. They won't speak.
Speaking through our husbands.
Yes. Nick and Ben are like, ugh.
Nick says that Erika would like to say to you, CJ.
So follow us for more tips on how to be a good
How to be a good business
partner. No, we're putting you guys in the extra big hot seat today because there's two of you, and we're going to talk about you and your relationship as business partners and how it started, how it's grown, what you've learned along the 2 years, 3 years. Let's just start there.
2 and a bit.
When did
Two and a
this-
sprinkle.
A little sprinkle, two and a
Two
little
and a dash.
Dazzle.
Two and
It's
a
one
little
of those
pinch.
episodes,
We're
guys.
gonna.
But those are our best episodes.
Yeah.
I know.
We get a
It's
little
gonna be
funny.
good. So take us back to the beginning, friends, because if you are a follower of ours, you may know that Erika and CJ are business partners
Yeah.
as well, but there's some added dynamics in there. So
Business
Let's get started.
partners, best friends,
Yes.
and family.
family.
Yes.
So we've got some layers
We've got the
of
triple trifecta duo. That's not a duo.
How's it?
It's a trio.
It's a trio.
The triangle.
So, take us back to the very beginning on how you guys became business partners. Just a real quick overview.
You want me to do it?
It don't matter.
You do it. I always do it. You do it.
Well, basically, not how we met. No,
No.
we're talking about how
You're
we became
family.
business
We're
partners.
family.
We're family. Wonderful. Erika and I were actually both working separately with, am I going to say this right? You're going to have to like interject if I do this wrong.
This is why I was like, let's see what
Let's
happens.
just see
Because
what
CJ's
happens.
not good with dates
And
or
memory.
details. And I was like, I know the whole thing, but I'm just like, let's have her
All
give
right,
it a go.
my version is we were both working separately and we were like talking, got on the phone and we were like, like going through this, going through that. We're doing similar things. We should get together and work together. And our original idea was that Erika and I would actually be sort of like a law firm and that it would be like an umbrella, like an agency umbrella. And like I'd have my clients and she'd have her clients and we'd be like separate lawyers, so to speak. And then we really actually, why it came about was we wanted to be able to provide support because as anyone listening might know who's an entrepreneur, it can actually be very lonely. And there's a lot of things that you go through and there's pros and cons to that. But we were like, I feel like two is better than one. And actually, as I was like going to the washroom before this podcast, the quote that popped into my head was, if you want to go quick, go alone. And if you want to go far, go together. And so I'm like, I think
That's very
Great.
nice.
Let's clip that.
That's very cute.
That
yeah,
is
and that's
cute.
how I
That's
feel
nice.
about
Yeah.
our relationship.
Yeah.
That
The
I'm
best
like
thoughts come to you when you're going pee.
going pee in the shower.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say similar. I would say the same-ish story.
Does that match up?
Yeah.
I mean, there could be more detail.
Yeah,
but
I would have really expounded on it and been like, well, this happened and then this happened because I like chatting.
I did ask for the concise version.
I know you did, so that was good that CJ did it.
Yeah.
I think that was essentially it. I remember having sitting in the office and we were having coffee like on Zoom, and the words I think I said were, I wish I worked in a cooperative space because I just feel like I'd love to bounce ideas off people, and then that's where it like I feel like we started to like pull this idea from. And I want to clarify, when CJ said like we'd be like a law firm, we don't mean we're like lawyers. We mean like, you know how a law firm has like the name
Like
of the
partners.
Yeah, like partners, but then everyone like does their own thing
Yes.
or like has their own like clients and maybe like pricing. That's kind of how we modeled it. And then very quickly what happened is our business model was basically, because CJ's based in Calgary or like outside of Calgary, that she'd be like, I'm gonna like tackle Alberta people and I'm gonna tackle Saskatchewan people. And actually, I think we can share this. I think we're just gonna be open. Like when we started our business, when we launched our business on social media, what I don't think a lot of people know is we had like a full roster. Like we were like basically full. Like we had all these clients, which is why I feel like the business kind of started, because for me it was a side gig.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I was like,
whoa,
I have like 4 or 5 clients. Like I'm making actual income from this. And some of my clients were like, how do I tell people about you? And I was like, I don't know. Cause I literally just kept telling people like, oh, it's just like a side thing, which is a big lesson about it's always a side thing till it's not.
Yes.
So then when we launched our business, I had for sure a full roster here in Saskatchewan, and CJ had clients in Alberta. And then I just like kept going and like reaching out to people and being like, hey, like this is what I do. And then I literally called CJ and was like, okay, like I'm full. I have these like other clients. Like, can you
gonna do?
on? Like, what are we going to do? Cause I was like, I'm absolutely at capacity. Like I can't take anybody else on. Can you come on and take this client? And that was the first client that we kind of shared. And very quickly we were like, we have strengths. Like I'm good at some things, she's good at some things. And instead of me dealing with one client on my own and being really good at 50% of it, we were like, why don't we like split the tasks? So then we really like came together.
So you really started playing to your strengths.
Yes.
And coming together.
Yes.
So how long do you think it took you to find your groove together?
do you ever find your groove?
Yeah.
I love that answer.
Like, right?
Yeah.
I'm like groove in some things.
Yeah.
Right? Like, but like you're constantly refining it.
Like I would say it took us, I mean, again, we like officially, we like started talking about business together in like January. We launched in March for sure March. It was probably within launching the month.
Yeah.
that I came to you and was like, I need you to take this client. Like it was real fast. And so then very quickly, I think we started to like divvy up responsibilities. And even just in that, we started to see like who was good at one thing. And we're still refining. Like we're 2.5 years in, I think. And even now, sometimes I'm like, she's been doing something for a long time, but I'm like, hey, I actually like, I've never done it. Maybe it'll be more my jam. Maybe this is more your jam. And just like constantly, like she said, refining. So I don't know. I think we started playing into our strengths right away. But our strengths, I believe, will always change and develop, right? As you like go on.
So how do you navigate realizing whose strength is in what area? Like you just spoke to, CJ's been doing this, but I want to give it a go. Like how do you navigate the division of that?
My answer is that I feel like I'm pretty self-aware. So I know when something's not for me. Like I'll literally say to her, like if she like brings me an idea, I'll be like, that's a great idea. Like I'm not doing it. Like I will tell you right now, I can't do it. Like and I usually pitch it like, if you want to do it, that's great. Or should we hire it out? Like, cause I don't think it's fair to be like, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing it. You have to do it. So usually I try to be like, should we pay someone? No, you want to tackle it? Okay, great. Like awesome. Or how can I support you? Like, do you just want feedback on like creative stuff? But like, I guarantee can't sit down and like create a system for how to intake clients. Like that's not happening for me. So I just know that. Yeah. And I feel like CJ's pretty self-aware as well. And I don't think we're ever offended because we're self-aware. I feel like it's easy for me to come to her and be like, hey, I don't like, maybe I should do that. And she'll be like, yes, 100%, please do this.
So have you guys always had that open conversation from the get-go? Like, did you have a conversation when you first started saying like, we need to have weekly conversations, really open communication? Like, did you set a plan for that so it wasn't harder to tackle as you went on?
I think the most important thing that we did when we first started was we said, if we're going to get into business together, the most important thing for us is that our friendship and our relationship as family comes first. So even before being like, we need to have honest and open conversations, we were like, we need to protect our friendship and our family bond. And that has to come before the business. Yeah. So in how we communicate, in communicating kindly and clearly, right? And then basically from that, having just a really open and honest foundation. Yeah. So yes, we didn't like necessarily sit down and say, okay, here's our system of how we're going to do that. But we knew that we were always going to put our relationship first. So if something is starting to like slip or feel off, we'll be like, okay, like let's take the business part out of it. Like, how do we still like each other?
Yeah, totally.
Totally. Are you open to giving a example of something that you've had to navigate like that?
Dun, dun, dun.
Or maybe the first time that you were like, okay, I really need to take my business hat off right now and look at you as my friend and my family.
I mean, probably when we're each going through things. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if we want to get specific, but I'm like, you know, we've each had things throughout this 2.5 years, like big things happen in our lives with our family members, right? Or with each other personally, like, or individually. And yes, I'm being very vague. I feel like the things that have happened in my life, I can't speak on the mic.
Yeah.
Otherwise I would.
Yeah.
But just, I think like real personal things that have happened. And it's like, okay, take the business hat off. Like at the end of the day, like we're just posting for people, right? Like, how do I nurture you as a friend? Like, what do you actually need? And I think we've been pretty open at trying to communicate when I'm going through a hard time. This is my capacity. This is what I need. Can we shift anything? Is there anything we can slow down on? Is there anything we can pick up on? And I think the biggest thing is we're not in each other's brains. No. Like even for as close as we are. Yeah. And I would say this about marriage too, right? You're not in someone else's headspace. And so as much as I think that I can like read you and understand you, like I have never walked in your shoes since day one, right? So you have a completely different lens than I do. And so it's really important for me to, which I've wanted to start using this line and I just like keep forgetting it because this is just me and things that I think about in my head.
Say it on the mic.
Yeah, it's from Brene Brown, but it's basically like, it's either like when you say this, like this is the narrative that's playing out in my head. So like, that when someone says something, I can be like, okay, like this is how I'm perceiving what you're saying. And then the other person can be like, oh, that's not what I mean at all. Right. Or tell me more. Right. And really leaning into someone being like, hey, this is blah, 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 blah. And I could all of a sudden, Erika could say something to me and I could be like, oh, like that's not sitting well with me. But I'm like, where is she coming from? Like, what is her perspective? Like, how did she get to that? And if I'm like, tell me more, she elaborates on it. And I'm like, oh, that's your angle. I get it. That makes more sense. So I think like something I'm trying to work on is being more curious in our relationship. Being more curious, because I think I have a tendency, and maybe we all do, to sometimes like get defensive. Like my first initial reaction is to be like, well, what did I do wrong? Or like, why are you saying that? Or, you know, being self-critical is probably what it is, and being like very perfectionistic. And so I think I'm trying to step back, and I don't know that I'm doing a great job of it, but it's something that's, I'm trying to work towards, is being like, how do I be more curious and understand like where you're coming from in your headspace?
Yeah.
And then be like, okay, now I can like digest that.
Yeah. I think for me, a big thing with our communication is, again, I shoot pretty straight. I always tell people, I like to just know what to like, I need to know where I stand with you. Like I've always said to people, if we're not friends, just tell me we're not friends. Right? Because I'm like, I'm cool then. If I like know the dynamic, I'm good. That's an example I'm using. So with CJ, I think often she is more private than I am. So I think if I can speak to this is in the past, I think we've had situations where like she processes quietly and she processes internally. And I speak to think. So I'm like, I'm going to get all my feelings out there. And sometimes they're harsh. Sometimes they're mean. Sometimes, or I don't want to say mean, but like maybe abrasive, or they're just, I'm like saying I'm not filtering. I'm like, this is literally what's in my head and I'm going to get it out, and then like go there with me and let's like find the thing I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
So I have found, I have to sometimes tell CJ, like, I just need to know what you need. And so like, you don't have to tell me I want to know everything, because we're business partners and we're very integrated with each other. And I'm like, I want to know so I understand. But if the bare minimum is, I just need you to like communicate what you need. Because if I don't know what you need, then I'm probably falling short. Or I'm like, I get frustrated because I'm like, if someone hasn't communicated to me that they're feeling sick, I'm using this as an example.
Yeah.
Like if someone's like, doesn't tell me they're feeling sick and then their work's not getting done, then my only lens is the work's not getting done. So I think we've really come to a place where I'm like, we need to like tell each other what's going on. And I would say it's on me if I don't say what's going on. And then I start like, I'm about to sneeze. Oh no.
And the sneeze is gone, but there.
I gotta look at it
like the feeling of it. Oh, I hate that when you don't actually sneeze and you need to.
Okay. What was I saying?
The work's not getting done is the lens you're seeing.
Yeah. So I think it's like, it's on. So the vice versa to that of me needing to know where people are at is it's my job to tell people where I'm at. So it's important for me. And I would view the lens of it. If I haven't communicated what's going on with me, then I can't actually fault the other person. I have to take ownership that I haven't been like, I'm in a hard space right now. Like, this is what's going on with me.
Where are all my candle lovers at? You know what I'm talking about. I always have a candle burning. I love the element a quality candle adds to my workday, and there's nothing like a flickering candle while you cozy up in the evening. It just adds like a little extra ambiance. Something I'm very focused on right now is being very mindful of the ingredients that are in the products that I use, which is why I'm so obsessed with Saskatchewan-based Huga Candle Co., and I think you'll love it too. Huga Candle Co. is an eco-friendly and sustainable brand. All of their candles are non-toxic. You guys, they smell amazing and they burn so beautifully. Founder Kayla wanted to make candles that were clean so we can all enjoy burning candles with peace of mind, knowing what is actually in them, and she delivers. Their summer collection that just dropped is so lovely. I'm currently burning the lemon and sea salt scent. You guys, it takes me to the ocean without being near the ocean, because obviously in Alberta, I'm landlocked. It's so fresh. It's so clean. The pineapple coconut might be the scent of the summer. It smells like summer in a jar. and like you're on a beach somewhere tropical. And then their other one that they have in the summer collection is the watermelon smash. And you guys, it smells like those delicious watermelon sugar candies that we all love. We have an exclusive discount code for you guys. Use HER15 online to save 15% off. I highly suggest snagging all of the summer collection while you can. You can follow Huga Candle Co. on Instagram and TikTok at hugacandle.ca, HYGGECANDLE.ca, and find them on Facebook at Huga Candle Co. And shop all their beautiful candles online at hugacandle.ca. And remember, use code HER15 to save.
Because otherwise, if she comes to me and she's like, you didn't get your work done, and I just flip a gasket and I'm like, I'm going through all this stuff. She's like, well, I didn't know that.
Right.
So I'm a big believer in like owning your part and owning, like, again, if you don't let me in, I can't help you. And if I don't let you in, you can't help me.
Well, and I think especially because we aren't together
a
lot of the time, right? And so I think if we were in person more, like some of that would get picked up on. And a challenge that we've had in our business, right, is me being in Alberta and Erika being in Saskatchewan, and we get together. I come to Saskatchewan usually once a month for about a week, and we're in person, which is great. We really I think stay connected that way in that week is really important. But outside of that, those other 3 weeks or whatever it ends up being, it's really important for us to communicate because we're not in each other's lives daily, right? So I can't see unless she lets me in, and vice versa. She can't see unless I let her in of what's going on.
So do you have set like meetings per week, or it's you just are in constant communication?
This is funny because like I have implemented some systems.
Yeah.
I feel like we tried to set weekly meetings at one point for Carousel, but like it honestly, I found, and Erika, I'm curious what you have to say. Like I found it easier for us to just like naturally jump on a call as it fits. I mean, it probably would be a good idea to like schedule it, but like sometimes it feels forced, you know what I mean? And it's not like the moment. I found we've had our best conversations when it's just like, we'll be texting and then all of a sudden I'll be like, can we jump on a call? And then we'll like get on a call and we'll end up talking for like 2 hours and just like catching up, which actually just like brings us closer.
Yeah, I would say we were doing some weekly calls, and what was happening was we'd like get together and we'd be like, okay, what do you have to talk about? And I'd be like, nothing. And then I'd be like, what do you have to talk about? And she'd be like, nothing. And we'd be like, do we both just want to go back to work and like get our stuff done? We'd be like, yes. So I would agree. I think I am better when I'm like thinking of something to be like, do you have time for a call? Because I like have a question, than I am necessarily writing everything down and waiting till our meeting. And most of the time I do find the stuff we have to talk about is more time sensitive. So it's like I'm sending off a package to a potential client and I want to confirm what we're ready to offer them, what their budget is, like that. Like she'll call me and be like, I just want to confirm numbers with you. Well, she can't wait a week because we've told this person we're going to get back to them in the next 24 hours. It'll probably change now. We have an employee now. So that I think will change. I think we'll start doing more weekly meetings just to keep her in the fold and like to hear from her and to check in with her and just to give her support as well. But between us, I'm like, we voice note, we text, we call a lot.
How is the dynamic? Because I know having an employee is very new. How has that dynamic shifted or changed in any way since you've brought her on? And I know it's still pretty new.
I was going to say, it feels like I'm curious what Erika has to say because you're really good at processing things quicker than me, but I'm just like still in it. I mean, I think that it has been really nice. I think that it's just been like really relieving. Again, I can't speak for Erika, but just to like start to have someone to take off these tasks that Erika and I have been working at full speed for 2.5 years and just like at max capacity. And I think we're both like, I realized the other day I was having a conversation with like business mentor and with Erika, and I was like, I think I'm just a workhorse.
Like, I think that's accurate.
Right? Like when we think of like an actual workhorse, I'm like, I think I actually really am built to work. Like I really enjoy it. It's like a border collie. Like you go put them inside and like tell them to sit in the corner. Like they're just going to like
they're going to eat your house.
Yes.
CJ is going to eat your house.
Yes. Gonna eat the house, everybody. I'm like a Great Dane. They're great apartment dogs because they shouldn't do anything. They're like, don't work them too hard because their hearts are going to explode. I'm like, that's me. Don't work me too hard.
I once had somebody told me I wasn't like a dog. I was a cat. And I was like,
on my own terms.
Pretty accurate.
Yeah, my sister's a cat too, actually, Meredith. Hi, Mare. Yeah, so the dynamic with the employee. So backstory of the employee is it's actually someone I have a really big connection with. When CJ and I sat down to hire an employee, and I think this is actually a really interesting conversation this is going.
I was gonna ask.
Well, we take our clients, if any of our clients are listening, we take it like so seriously that they've invited us into the fold. Like we're like, we honor every aspect of their business. We honor their privacy. Like, you know, we do our very best to make sure things stay confidential and or that we're just like representing them because we're like an extension and them an extension even of us. Like we really care about relationship. And so for us, when we started talking about an employee, and we knew we needed one because what was happening is we were hitting a ceiling and we were at a space where we were like, do we want to hit the ceiling and stay there or do we want to go through it?
Define hitting the ceiling.
We had like full rosters and we had no more time.
Yeah, like our time was maxed
like our time
out,
was gone unless I feel we were willing to forego life.
Right.
And I'm going to speak for myself. Like I have 3 kids.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, I can't. Like I physically have little people relying on me. And maybe if her and I were in a space where we were like, again, like 25 and we were like, oh, we just got married and like
hustle.
This is what we're doing, right? We like have time to walk for a smoothie in the morning. Like that's not happening. So like,
what's that?
you know, like when they're like in the morning, my morning routine, I go and get my smoothie and then I do my Pilates.
How do you afford it? Also,
7 hours later, I sit down and I work. And I'm like, what is that? So anyways, I'm like drinking my coffee on the treadmill. So
yeah.
I love that.
That
I
sounds
love
that.
dangerous.
And I was in bare feet.
Oh my gosh, Erika.
She was slow walking.
I was just like walking.
Oh my goodness.
I was so
Not
tired.
running.
She's like,
Not
I was
running.
spotting her.
my,
Don't worry.
my personal trainer came in and she's like, oh. I was like, I'm not prepared for what you're about to do. Anyways, my point is, with our clients, when we decided to hire an employee, so we had hit our ceiling. We were like, we can't take anyone else on unless we're ready to like forego life, and we weren't. So we spent some time just like not taking on new clients. Then we like readjust and we're like, no, like we want to grow. We want to keep growing. So that's when we were like, we need an employee. Like we need support. It's really important to recognize when you need support. And so we like started talking about an employee, and like full transparency, we were like terrified. Like we're like, how are we going to find someone that we trust, that isn't in it for themselves, that, you know, isn't going to come and mess up our clients? Like they have access to things. Like we were like, this is really, really important that this person has like integrity. And so I think that's where we started to build out almost this like person we wanted to hire, which was, we really instead of looked at skill set, which is still important, but we looked at like values and
Skills can be taught.
Skills can be taught. I was like, I can teach you how to make reels. I can teach it. That's what I do. So I'm like, I can teach you how to like create content. That's what we do. But I can't teach you to be honest. I can't teach you to be a hard worker. I can't teach you to have integrity. So long short of it is basically we headhunted and we were like, and it took like 2 seconds for me to know who I wanted to hire once we like had our list. And I approached someone after discussing with CJ. I was like, I think this is the person. And we called them up, had a conversation and hired them there basically. So,
and it's been the best
great
decision
so
far.
I realized that was a tangent on your question.
I
which
love a
was,
tangent.
How are the dynamics? So
Yes.
the dynamics for me are interesting because this is someone I've been integrated with for a very long time.
Yes.
For almost 8 years, I've been integrated with them in some capacity. So it's interesting for me to bring someone on. They have been an employee of mine in the past, to bring someone on in this capacity because CJ and I have such open conversations with each other. And sometimes I recognize now when you have an employee, like you really have to tread the line of like friend and boss and like all those dynamics. And so I find that I have to remind myself, like, I can't say that right now because this is a conversation for just CJ and I, right? Like CJ and I should have this privately. And I'm like the most biggest open book. So I like don't care about things really. Like I'm like, oh, she heard that, whatever. But that's a dynamic for me that's been interesting, is just learning to almost like have my boss hat on now with an employee.
How do you wrap your head around having like you just said, respecting people's privacy and the way that they do things? So you have a business partner, you have an employee, and you have X amount of clients who all have different needs. How do you wrap your head around figuring out how to give people what they need without getting depleted?
I mean, I think that it's just how you schedule your time, right? Because I'm like, yeah, like it's like this feels like a cop-out answer to me.
No,
but I'm
I
like,
was about to say
I'm
it
like,
feels
you, like,
simple, but I feel like simple is smart.
Yeah, I'm like, you show up to work and you work and you do the things for your clients and you put your client hat on and your boss hat and your whatever hat and your business partner hat. And then at the end of the day, I take off that hat, or not even take off, because Erika and I really talk about, we don't like the word work-life balance.
No, it doesn't exist.
It literally doesn't exist. And it implies that you have to have equal weight on both sides. And that is just exhausting to be constantly measuring weights back and forth on one side and the other. So we really believe in ebb and flow. So I'm like, this terminology that I'm starting to use of hats, I actually don't even like, because I'm like, it's not like I take off a hat and then put on a hat and it's like, do. I'm like, it just naturally like flows throughout. So I think, again, Eric, I'm not sure what you do. Well, I do know, but I'm like, you could speak to it yourself. I'm like, I think we schedule in things that we need, right? So in the morning, if there's things that we need to be able to like work out or spend time alone or do things, you know, like taking lunches, making sure that we're eating, spending our evenings with our people, you know, scheduling fun things on the weekend. Like, I think for me, how I manage output versus, you know, input is like just putting your, Erika said it before on the podcast, like putting your own oxygen mask on first and making sure that you're scheduling time for what is important for your value system and for you.
I think that's a great answer.
I think this is like, again, I've talked about it in other podcasts. Like, I think that's a space that I'm like actually not great at. Like, I think I take on a lot from people. I take on a lot of their energy. I feel like I'm someone who's constantly managing people's like moods and energies. And so typically what happens is I crash. Like, that's what happens is I get sick, which doesn't surprise me that I'm sick after, like, I have a cough. You can probably hear it. After 6 weeks of working really, really hard for 6 weeks, like, I've gotten sick. And I had so many people message me when they heard she was here for 6 weeks. And not that it's her, but it's like our dynamic of working the way we work, that we're like, you're gonna get sick. And I was like, no, I'm not. And now I'm like,
Thanks, tips.
like I am. It's like deep in my lungs again. So anyways, that's, I think if I were to like put it really slowly, I'm like trying to get better at my diet, at walking, like taking time for myself. I get up, I read my Bible in the morning, have like quiet time, and just try to prep myself, because it's always going to be depleting. Managing that many people is just depleting. It doesn't mean I don't like what I do, but it just is. You're managing all these different people who have different values, different like goals, and you're switching from one to the next and needing to keep up with it. So it's like, I think you have to like take care of yourself and understand that you'll go into something that can be depleting. But as long as you're taking care of yourself, you like know that that rest is coming maybe.
I love that. Okay, so you guys have been together straight for 6 weeks, but I want to speak, well, maybe it's a two-parter question. Since you've started business together, what's one thing that you've learned about the other that's maybe surprised you?
Okay, this is hard because CJ and I have been in each other's lives since 2014, but we really only became super, super close in spring of 2020.
I rely on you for the dates.
I know.
I would say we've known each other since birth if she wasn't here.
I know.
And Erika's
So
like,
I'm like-
I didn't realize CJ had such a terrible memory.
Well, that could be one.
Actually,
She's like, no, I knew it from the moment I met her and she forgot my name. No.
I need a second to like think about that question. What was the question? Like something we've learned about each other that's surprising?
Yeah. Maybe as business partners.
I have something. But I don't know if I should say it.
Say it. We can always edit it out. Is it bad?
You might think it's bad.
Is it embarrassing?
No. I think you'll be like, yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
So, okay.
Yeah.
What I've learned is this. When I started business with CJ, I think that...
I'm like bracing myself.
I'm literally on the edge of my seat right now.
Let's figure out how I can say this. I just need to say what it is and then we'll walk through it together.
Well,
this is what happens with us in business. When I started business with CJ, I was like, CJ, I think I held CJ, like, to be honest, and I've had this conversation with my husband, I held her like above me. Like, I was like, she's so much smarter. She like is so much better at this stuff. Like, there's no way I could do this without her. And I do believe that to a point, but I think I had it in my head. Maybe the flip is also that I've learned about me. Maybe that's actually what some of this is like, I held her in this regard that was like, if she says, then she knows. If she says, then she knows. It's kind of like when your dad says something as a kid and you're like, yup. And then later on you're like,
wait a sec.
wait, you actually didn't know everything. And I'm not saying that about CJ. What I'm saying is, I think I'm like, oh, CJ's still a human.
Yeah.
And I think when we got into business, I was like, she knows everything because she's had these like big jobs and she's like managed so many people. And so maybe the accountability I was like holding to her, the standard for her was like too high. And so now I'm like, she's a human. We're going to have days where like she might not know. Right. And that's where my strengths can come in. Does that make sense?
Yes, that completely makes
Are
sense.
you okay?
I'm having a rough going.
Oh, jeez.
So I'm like, it's not like a negative thing. I think it's growing together and being like, it's like you enter into business with rose colored lenses. And after a while, you're like, oh, here I've taken off the lenses. And I still think, like, I will always say I can't do Carousel without CJ. Like, I know that. This is something I tell people all the time. I'm also like, CJ built the wheel that our business is running on. CJ did that, and I knew she would do that. But I think through our communications, we've had experiences where I'm like, oh, like I need to be the leader right now. Right? Like I need to be the one to maybe like make the decision. Because when you go into something thinking like someone knows everything, I'm like, I don't need to make any decisions. And then she'll ask me for advice and I'm like, oh, I need to step up here.
Fair to say you deferred to her a lot at the beginning?
Yeah, totally. And so I think I've learned about her and equally about me, right? Those dynamics, like what happens. And so I think totally self-induced. Self-induced.
Like really, really beautiful for me to watch self-discovery for you of actually how freaking cool and badass you are. You know what I mean? And
I'll stop talking. I don't want you to talk about that. Stop. It makes me so uncomfortable.
Why?
Next question.
Erika, you're amazing.
She's leaving.
I'm gonna be the great.
She
guy.
literally doesn't let me shower her in compliments
I don't
unless
like
I have
it.
her trapped like this.
I don't like The one day she said to me, she was like, I know you don't like compliments, which is very funny. I'm sure people would not think that.
What?
And
Yeah.
she was like complimenting me as we were walking here, and I stopped walking and she kept walking.
Literally,
I was like-
it's difficult for me. I can't give her a compliment.
Pass.
Yes.
Now I'm thrown a little because I'm just thinking of all the nice things I want to say to you.
No,
I
that's
know.
fine. You can
That's
compliment
okay.
my clothes.
Well, you look very cute.
Thank you. I know.
You're pretty.
Always. What would you
you.
describe your style as today? Cottage cowgirl?
Yeah, or like coastal cowgirl, maybe.
Coast-
Coastal.
what
I
Oh, so you guys go together. Yacht
Yeah.
club, cowgirl.
I'm a geriatric cowgirl.
There you-
You're just riding the little
It's fine.
horse outside the superstore. You know what I'm talking
That's
about.
a content idea, you guys. I'm here for it. Okay. So
You'd have to find one.
did
first.
I ask this yet?
I don't know.
Or
Ask
did
it.
you say what you learned? That
No.
surprised?
What did you
Okay,
learn?
what
She
have
said,
you
I don't
learned?
know. And then I was like, I'm sorry.
Is there something that has surprised you about Erika other than the fact that
I apologize.
That's
and I
okay.
tried to prepare for this conversation, but like nothing is like coming to top of mind for me. Like in a way, I feel like sometimes even these type of questions you're able to answer for me. And be
Yeah.
Erika's like, CJ,
That's why I
this
said
is where
not
I
surprised.
defer
That's
to her.
why I said in my answer, I think it's like 50-50.
Yeah.
Like I'm not like, I thought CJ knew everything, and guess what, guys? She don't. Like, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, I think we've both realized how human we both are.
Yes.
And that when you walk into something, it's like a freaking relationship when you're dating someone
Yeah.
and you're like, they are so perfect. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, they're not. And that's okay. Doesn't mean I don't love them. Doesn't mean I don't want to be with them.
Yeah.
It just is like, oh, this actually is now a partnership.
Yeah.
And
Okay,
sometimes
here's
I'll
two
pull and
things.
sometimes she'll pull.
I thought of two things. Okay. They're not like full surprises, but like just like the scope of it. And I'm like impressed and it's really good. So
I know what you're going to say. Go.
Okay, 3, 2, 1.
No, go.
3, 2, 1.
Go.
But every time you guys do that, only one of you says something.
I say, I'm like, 3, 2, 1, and then she's
I
like,
don't.
And
she's
CJ's
like,
yeah, I
yes.
agree.
Yes,
I'm like,
I
that's-
agree.
She playing it safe over
Okay,
there.
two things come to mind. All right. Two things. Number one is actually her ability to network. She is a phenomenal networker and she is like connected with all of these people and all of these things and always has like whenever you're like, we need someone for this or like we could use someone for this or I wonder if we know someone who does this or like blah, 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 blah. Like she has so many connections. She's like the mycelium out there in the
I'm
ground.
sorry, a
you know,
what?
like
I was like,
connecting
what?
all of the trees. Go
What is
Google
that?
it. I'm not even going to talk about it.
This is why
Google
I
it.
thought she was so much
Get
better
down
than
off
I am.
the pedestal and
What's a
explain what mycelium is.
Come to us, peasants, and tell us.
It's like the
You have
fungi
like a peasant dress on.
that like connects the world and like the ecosystem
Okay.
and like the trees talk.
Do you
and,
see
like,
why when we entered into
Hello,
business, though, I
fun.
was like,
Erika, you're like a cute little mushroom.
You're the little fungus to my mycelium.
Someone make a greeting card.
So her networking abilities.
Yes.
And then number 2, I have talked about this one before, but just her ability to come up with ideas and how creative she is.
Yeah.
And that has been such an asset in our business. I'm literally trying not to look at you so you don't feel like this is a compliment.
This is not a
Should I
compliment.
take off my head?
Just walk away.
You have to
No,
edit
but I'm
this too and get uncomfortable
In
another
a business, you need to have ideas. Like
Yes.
ideas are what drive the wheel forward. And then you need to hone on what ideas you're going to do and like rein it in and run with it. Right. Which is why I think we balance each other out, but we are never stuck ever. Right. Like even when we're in a corner, we're like, okay, like great. Let's cut a hole. Let's make a wall. Let's like climb over this thing. Let's like blow it up. Like, you know what I mean? There's always a way through, over, around in any situation. And I love her creativity.
How do you guys navigate when you have a big idea and you have a big idea and maybe they clash or maybe they don't match and you both really believe in them and you're like, no, this
We just
is the
scream
idea.
at each other. We've never
What's
screamed
the
at each other.
process?
If you are on the market to buy or sell a home, or maybe both, and want to make the process as stress-free and smooth as possible, then I have the realtor for you. Lacey Cazette is an award-winning Saskatoon realtor who prides herself in being your one-stop shop for both buying and selling. And her passion for her work just shines through when you meet her. Lacey has over 12 years experience in the real estate industry, a 98% list to sale ratio, and she prioritizes an extensive and personalized marketing strategy for each of her clients. Because we all know that the best strategy is more important than ever now. Along with her husband and partner, Kyle Berneski, Lacey is licensed in residential, commercial, and farm. So she literally has you covered no matter what real estate area you need. And because she's built such solid connections in the industry, she can dial up the best lawyers, mortgage brokers, appraisers, and contractors for you too. Lacey has also given us an exclusive discount code for her community. You can use the code LACY5 to save $500 off one real estate transaction. You guys, that's huge. So if you want a driven, hardworking, and connected agent who'll go above and beyond for you, this is a no-brainer, guys. Get in touch with Lacey. You'll find her at Realty Executive Saskatoon or on socials at Lacey Cazette. That's at LACEYCOSSETTE and online at lacycazette.com. And remember to mention the code LACY5 to save $500 on one real estate transaction. We're linking all her info in the show notes for you.
First and foremost, I was wrong about what you were going to say.
Great.
So I'm glad I didn't. Also, now I feel bad because mine was basic. She was like, Erika's so good at all this stuff. And I was like, I've learned that CJ is not good at all this stuff.
No,
but I would like to point out that maybe then the flip is that when she came in, maybe her expectations were lower and mine were higher. And we've just done this.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I also do think CJ's very amazing. Like, I really mean it when I'm like,
know.
I couldn't do this without her. Like, I
Yes.
literally couldn't.
Also, this podcast would not be here.
No, this
without
literal
CJ.
podcast. No, I was going to say something else. I thought, I'll just say it because I'm not embarrassed by it.
No.
But when we did our first speaking engagement and I like lost it before we spoke. And afterwards you like got in the car and you were like, what was that? And I was like, yeah, that's a side of me that not a lot of people know that. Like, I'm not good at public speaking. Like, I'm like, get so scared. And you were like, that?
Oh, yeah, that
Really?
would be something that surprised me.
Yeah, you were literally like, you said to me after, you were like, I was like, oh, Erika's like full on losing it. Like, I have to, okay, yep, good.
Like
And I,
as you were walking up to the mic or
no,
what?
like as we went into the building, I just, yeah, that's like a
Well, I
thing
think
about me.
Erika, I'm going to speak for you, but like you are so confident.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And that is how everyone perceives you. That is how you are. You know what I mean? And so I think whenever you see a moment of, it's not weakness, but that's the word
No,
I'm
it's
going
like
to use.
seeing like behind the curtain a little bit.
Yes. Do you know what I mean? You're like, oh, right. And again, it's the human element and that
Yes.
human aspect. And you're like, oh, like she's human. Right. And so you're right. We did walk up to this speaking engagement and she was just like, I could tell she was like full blown, like, I don't think I can do this. And I was surprised because of how well spoken she is. Right. And how extroverted and how charismatic. And
I was like texting Nick being like, I'm going to throw up. I'm going to throw up. And he was like, you're okay. Like, it'll be fine. And I was like, I'm not going to be fine. I'm going to throw up in my Louis Vuitton purse, like up in here.
And he's like, don't you
He's
dare.
like, don't you dare. We have to resell that thing eventually.
We got to
You
recoup
told
our
me it will
costs.
hold its value. Don't puke in it.
Oh no, we can't sell it.
Save the bag.
Save the bag.
I think you guys have really highlighted the element that everybody's human. And sometimes when you're in business, people forget that the people that you are dealing with are human.
Well, and that our strengths, I say this so much now, like our strengths always have a weakness, and also that sometimes our strengths don't show up on those days. You know what I mean? Like, again, people are like, and I feel like I've tried to communicate this, and we just had a conversation the other day where I was like, my creativity tap is tapped out. Like, it's dry right now. Like, yes, I'm real good and it'll probably be better by tomorrow, but like right now, today, it's done. I can't talk about ideas because I'm just too tired for it.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, it's that humanize what you just said. It's like sometimes even our talents, the areas we're super strong in, even then sometimes we're weak and we lack a little. So it's just realizing that you're humans and then communicate through it, right?
Yeah. So back to my
what did you say?
question.
What was
about, You're like, I
I have
don't
no
even know
idea
what it was.
We've taken over the podcast.
Yeah. Well, it is your podcast too.
Oh, but I was going to say like even this podcast, like CJ,
There she goes.
I'm
again.
going because you said it. I'm like, to acknowledge that like without CJ, this podcast would not have happened. Megan and I would have just kept being like, let's do a podcast.
That conversation was really good. If only we had recorded it.
Literally. So I'm like, CJ was like, okay, this is the equipment meeting. Like, this is how we're going to record it. Like, she delegated and was like, Erika, like, learn this. And I was like, okay. So, like, literally, these are the talents, right? She makes things happen.
Absolutely.
Happy to be here.
Thank you for joining us
While we're on this
today
topic,
and every day.
now that we've used your talents, we actually want to talk.
Now you're being exit. This is your exit strategy.
Oh my
your
God, no.
exit
So the
interview?
podcast is ending.
Literally.
Not. What do you guys do? How do you navigate when you have maybe clashing ideas or ideas that you don't necessarily see eye to eye on, but you're very passionate? You know, Erika has this idea and you can see it to the end, and CJ's like, I'm not there with you, or vice versa.
I think for me, it refers back to what I said at the beginning of this conversation. I really try and get curious on what her idea is, where it's coming from, how she's like seeing this like affect us, where it's going to take us. You know what I mean? And I think that's the lens that I look at it through. And I think at the end of the day, again, I'll speak for myself, like we just want the business to do well.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm like, at the end of the day, like, I'm like, if you're so passionate about this, then like, let's have a conversation and lean into that. Like yesterday, we got on a phone call with a discovery call and someone was like, brought up a service that we don't have on our roster right now. Right. And Erika was like, this is something that she's talked about for a long time that she wants to get involved in. And so we had a conversation and I was like, you know, this is an area where I'm like, let's go for it. Right. Like, let's do it. And so I think for me, it's just everything is on the table. Everything is on the table. Right. So I'm like, if you have an idea, everything is on the table. Let's figure out if it's now, if it's later, how we can make that work.
That's a really great mindset to have. Everything is on the table.
Yeah.
Until Erika wipes the table clean.
I don't think I'm the one who wipes the table clean. I'm just going to shoot straight. Because we've had this conversation before, actually. We talked about this. So I think it's okay to share about it. I've openly said, which is why I'm going to say it here. Like, CJ will literally come to me and be like, I want to do a course. It's $2,000. And I'm like, great. I'll pay $1,000. And I basically almost have no questions asked because I do have such a trust in her. And we've talked about this. So if you don't want me to share this, I don't have to. But I'm like, we've discussed how, like, she does bring things. She'll be like, I read this thing and this is what. And I'm like, great. How can we implement? Like, I don't. And because I know she's so thoughtful and considerate is what I meant to say with her opinions and with what she does. So when she brings something to me, I'm like, she probably thought about it. And I'm a jump in the water and learn to swim later.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'll try it. Like, and if this course that was $2,000 is not beneficial, well, we just learned to next time we'll reevaluate if we want to take a course differently. Right. Mm-hmm. Whereas I've openly said to her before, when my ideas aren't as excitedly or as almost like picked up as quick, I feel a distrust. So I've communicated this before, and we've had that, like, we've walked through this where I'm like, I actually feel like when I put something on the table and I get 1,000 questions about it, I understand her process, but it doesn't mean that my reaction doesn't still happen inside of me, which is, I've thought about it and I can see it, and I pretty good with my ideas. So why don't you trust me the way I kind of like blindly sometimes trust? And that's a reflection on me to not always blindly trust and to be like, hey, we should consider this. But that's not my makeup. My makeup is to be like, sounds good. I'll give it a go. Right. And her makeup is to question and to make sure it's the right decision. So I think when we have big ideas, I think that's kind of what happens is we navigate that every time, right? We talk through it. We have the discussion about what the thought process is. And you know what? Sometimes I have ideas and we talk through it and I'm like, yeah, you're right. That wasn't a good idea. Right. So I think it's learning that I do need to talk through it, but it doesn't mean that the like reaction inside of me doesn't happen. It does. But then I work through it in my head. Right.
Yeah. Because you're human.
Right. Yeah. And when I made the joke about like her swiping the things off the table, it's because she's the one who questions things. I'm like, you put it all on the table, put it in the truck, let's go. Like, I'm like, here we go.
Well, and I guess I realized in me being like, yeah, we like put it on the table when we talk about it. And she's like, I want to put it on the table and then like run with it, not talk about it.
I don't want to put it on a table. I'm already out the door.
Yeah.
Erika's like, I'm halfway done.
I'm like, I'm already done.
Yeah. We've already made this much money from it.
Yeah. Or lost this much money.
It's cost this much money.
Yeah, I'm like, here we go.
I love it. Okay. What is, if you're comfortable, you've been together for 6 weeks. What is something maybe that's been getting on the nerves or like, and how do you deal with it's like, okay, you keep doing this because it's like a relationship, right? So like we all have things about our partners that drive us nuts. That doesn't mean we don't love them and appreciate them, right? So like if you're comfortable to share like what's something that maybe Erika does that drives you nuts with love.
Yeah, you go first.
Like as if I'm going to be ready to go first.
Okay, I'll go
like,
first.
I'm looking at all the items on the table right now.
I know. She's like, which item do I pick up?
No, not at all.
I'm teasing.
Mine is not an annoyance with CJ. Like they've been like camping, like they brought a camper out. So we've like, other than like cooking or like using the bathroom or like when they want to hang out, like they're in their own space. So it's not like we've been like across the hall from each other for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
On my nerves, and it's not her, it's that I have felt like a hostess for 6 weeks. And when you feel like a hostess, you can't turn it off.
Right.
So like if I feel like they're not having a nice time, if like the weather, you know, just when you start to take things on that you're like, this is not my responsibility, but like, oh, I'm navigating my kids, not bugging them, or like, oh, make sure they have space. Like you just are in hostess mode, which means like I'll be in my house relaxing and they'll come in and you're immediately like, there's someone in your home.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter if it was her or you or my family, I would feel like a hostess.
Got it.
So that's what's been tiring, not her and Ben. It's almost like my own inability to relax over the last 6 weeks. Right?
That's a really good way to put it,
Right?
because actually I see the flip of that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, helping me identify. And I'm like, I feel like a guest for 6 weeks in the sense that I'm like, okay, like I'm here and I'm going to do the experiences and I'm going to do the thing and I'm like visiting and I need to be like there and like present.
Yeah, totally.
And so, you know, same as her, we probably both feel energy drained in that we're like meeting each other. We're just tired, right? From all the output. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Even though we didn't intentionally, like, we can be complete slobs around each other.
Yes,
like
absolutely.
there is no expectation there.
Right.
But I think it's like that ingrained feeling.
Yes.
When you're not in your own space and then when you have someone in your space.
Yes.
And it's like, it's not like I'm like, I hate Ben and CJ after 6 weeks. I'm like, I think after 6 weeks, I would want anyone out of my space.
Oh my gosh. After 2 weeks, I'm like, see ya.
And like, that's fine.
Yeah.
And so that would be it for me, really.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Okay, you both have mentioned the output in business. I'm curious, how do you do the flip and what are you doing for input?
What do you
for
mean
yourselves?
by that?
Oh, I had this
like, how do I fill my cup?
I guess, yeah. So it's like I actually had this conversation with my therapist the other day, and it really made me start thinking, because I kept just saying like, oh, I've just so much output. This month's been so much output. And she's like, well, what's your input? And I'm like, pardon me. Right? And you think about it like you're plugging something in. So I guess, yes, how are you filling your cup or recharging and making sure that you don't have everything just going out? You also have things coming in.
Do you want to know the funny thing? When you're saying this is like not the
you have
answer
a
that you want.
smile.
I have a little like smirk.
Oh no, is it sexual?
No.
Her husband just broke his collarbone.
His collarbone.
His collarbone.
Yeah,
collarbone is blown.
Special
Poor
for
Ben.
a minute. No, when you say that, I literally, it does have to do with my husband though. I literally the other day was like, I just like, he recharges me in so many ways. Like he's just like, and I've said it on the podcast before and it's so silly, but I was just like, you know how like phones, you can like place them on like a charging pad.
You just go lay on him.
Literally, like the other day I just went into the camper and I was like, I just need to like be real up close to you and just like, you can like watch a YouTube or do whatever you want, but I was like, I just need to recharge off of you.
Yeah.
I was like, my cell phone battery.
No wonder he broke his collarbone. He was all weak and depleted.
You overcharged.
I sucked his energy right out.
He was like, I'm feeble.
And yeah.
Shattered.
No, so I thought that
Love
was
that.
funny when you were saying like, how do you plug in? Like, how do
Yes.
you recharge? Because I literally had a conversation with him the other day and I was like, I just need some, like, he just brings like a really, like, and they say like heartbeat sync, right? And I'm like, he has a very slow heartbeat.
He's
like
so
a very,
grounding
like,
for you.
Yes, very grounding. So I'm like, to physically just like touch him or be near him is one way that I plug in and input.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any others? Because you're like all about self-care. So I'm like,
really
you're going to be the
hard.
one who has like great tips for our audience.
Because
take it like a tip.
also-
What would you give as tips to someone who's like, how do I?
Yes. As a workhorse who loves to work, how do you turn that put it aside? How do you press pause?
I think that this is my perfectionism and I'm just going to acknowledge it. I'm going to start acknowledging it. Having been here for 6 weeks, I'm like completely out of my routine.
Yeah.
So for me sitting here talking about like how I input into myself, I'm like, I'm not doing any of it.
No,
What's
but
the
at
first
home
thing
you
you
do.
Yeah.
What's the first thing you're going to
exactly.
do when you get home to
Okay.
input?
Oh, that's a good idea. There's just like nothing like showering at home. Can we just like start there? You know what I mean?
Using
like
your
to like
own bathroom.
get home and just like full shower, you know, like put all your laundry in, like get fresh sheets, like get in your room, just like all of the things, right? Like even just like my morning routines, like Erika knows and her kids know, like I make my lemon water for me and Ben every morning, right? It's funny because Joss came in, our employee came in the other day and she's like, are you making like a hot one and like a room temperature one? And I was like, yes. Like we have like certain preferences. So like I have like a hot lemon water to start my morning is how I start my morning. And then I have my dandelion tea and then I have a smoothie after that. And then I like start my day.
Just all the bevies.
See, but these are the things that you're doing.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean. Like,
Yeah.
because what else do you do? You
know how
very
to set
hydrated.
yourself up.
yeah, you're very hydrated.
I set myself up for success.
Yes.
I don't know if we've talked about this on the podcast, but like I literally will set out if I have something I have to do the next day, like podcasting, I set out what I was going to wear the next day.
Oh,
so
it's
the
those
night
little
before,
things.
I need to wake up and be like workhorse, like ready to go, like just like jump in and like get on the track. You know what I mean? So I will set out my makeup, like I will set out like what skincare products I'm going to use in the morning. Like I will like have my lunch like ready. I'll have like what I need for my tea, like my bag packed. You know what I mean? I'm a really big believer in having a successful day starts the day before. Right? So if you want to start your week well, start it well on Sunday, right? If you want to start your day well, that actually starts the evening before. I'm a big list maker. And so I will prep like what is happening tomorrow, like what needs to get done in what order, what's happening in the morning, afternoon, evening. And I find like everyone, maybe not like everyone, actually there's night owls, but I taper off during the day, right? So I'm like, if I can like start off strong in the morning, that's a huge, huge benefit and big win for me.
I love that. And also you're speaking to self-care in that as well.
Yeah.
Because those are all self-care steps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love that.
Yeah.
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 So good.
One more fun thing that I've been doing
Yes.
lately, because we were actually talking with someone about this week that we saw. I have high cortisol. Oh, who would guess that, right? Like stress hormones. And so I've been trying to incorporating stress reducing practices into my lifestyle.
What are some of them?
Yes. So the newest one that I've started doing is like literally at night I do it. And then sometimes I haven't done it with Erika. I should have just done it in the office.
I saw you do it once.
Okay. But
gosh,
I'm
what
like,
is
I will
that?
literally just like go and put my legs up the wall.
Oh, leg up the wall fall.
Yes.
So good.
And like that, you guys, like if you work in a space or at home or something and you're just like feeling stressed in the middle of the day, like go take 5, 10, 15 minutes, silent, put on music, whatever you would like. But I guarantee that it will slow your heart rate. and just really help to recenter you. And I get like real wired sometimes during the day. And so having that at night to get me prepped to like go to sleep is really, really helpful. And then also during the day, if I'm like all of a sudden feeling like I should have done it yesterday. Yesterday I had a wired moment. We were doing like all these things with clients and exciting things were happening. And I was like buzzing in a good way, but I was just like, oh. I probably should have done it yesterday to ground myself.
Yeah. But that's okay.
Yeah.
It's good to have exciting days too.
Yes.
I don't have anything that is filling my cup. No, and I'm not trying. I just don't want to lie. I don't want to be like,
No.
oh my gosh, I do all these things. I'm like very sporadic, first of all, which we've talked about. Like I'm like, sometimes sometimes I'll wake up at like 5 and go sit in my living room, like read my Bible and have my coffee and like ice roll my face. Like that's beautiful. But do I do it every day? No.
Right.
I try to work out in the morning. I've been having my trainer come at like 6:30 in the morning and like she comes and we like get it done. Cause I'm like, I just like need this dealt with. But I would say, no, I'm in a season right now. And I've actually like, this is a good question. The reason I said fill my cup when you were talking about it is because this is the wording I've been using with people, which is my cup is very empty and I need to be filling it. And I just haven't found yet the space in which that's happening. I think there's little increments of moments where I feel really like relaxed or like, like good. But what I like, yeah, I'd say I'm in like a season of figuring that out.
Sometimes when you're feeling like your cup's empty, it seems like another to-do to figure out how to fill it.
Well, it's like being in depression and trying to get out of depression,
Yeah.
right? Like they're like, just do one step, like walk around the block, get outside, and you're like, I literally feels like a mountain to me.
Yeah.
Right?
So right now I'm just like, oh, it's a season.
Yeah.
Right. So like I'm fine. I'm all good. But I'm just like, yep, like doing a lot of output for sure.
I think it's
And
important to
that's fine.
acknowledge that.
Yeah. I'm like,
Yeah.
that's just, and I'm not sitting here being like, I'm like, no, it's just a season right now. And that's totally fine.
Yeah.
Like I'm good.
Yeah.
Right. So
So good.
Yeah.
Okay. We're nearing the end of the conversation.
Great.
I want to ask a couple questions or
Rapid
phrase
fire.
it this way. Favorite color? No, I'm just kidding. Erika's like, pink. Why are you talking to me? I just want to, because you guys, I know from experience, are very good at having hard conversations and making sure that communication is front and center and key. So I'd love if you could give the listeners tips for when they're in that business partnership or working with a friend or whatever it looks like, how to have those hard conversations, why they're important, and what you've learned about the importance of having them.
So a practice, I'm just like, go listen to my dad's episode because that's how I communicate with
Literally,
everybody.
Milton's episode.
Please
is
go
so
listen. Good. I take into practice with CJ. So I've already voiced that I talk to think. So I talk everything out. My brain has a million things going on in it at one time. So what I have started doing when I feel like we have to have a hard conversation or when I want to voice thing, I'll usually start with, okay, I want to be very honest. I'll usually say something along the lines of like, this is what's going on in my head. So I want to get it out, but I try to communicate. Like, it's not coming from a place of anger. It's not coming from a place of resentment. This is just a thought in my head and I can't work out a different thought. So I want to like say it, even if it's like, CJ, you smelt today.
You stinky girl.
Right? Like I will just say, I'm like, I can't figure out a way to like say this other than exactly what I'm thinking. So I think I'm not always good at it, but I try to communicate like, I want to have an open conversation. Sometimes I'll be like, this isn't about you. This is about us as a team. Like I'm reflecting on myself. So I think we both do that. We'll try to be like, acknowledge it's open, acknowledge it might be hurtful, but like we come from a place of love and that really the goal is to like get us to the next side. So I don't think I'm ever like, you did this and it hurt me. I'll be like, I feel, or like I'm reflecting that this might be why I'm feeling this way now. And I realize you didn't do it intentionally, but that's now what's happened. And so to acknowledge it, but not necessarily always blame, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Right? Like I'm thinking about our conversations in the car, like when we have a conversation and we're like,
100%.
I just want to have an open conversation. And
whenever you start the conversation like that, right, it just really opens up the other person, at least for me, to be like, okay, I'm going to put my listening ears on and like hear what she's going to say. Right. So I think that would be a great tip for listeners is to be like, just acknowledge, be like, hey, I really want to have an open conversation, right? And then if the person reciprocates back, okay, I would like that as well. Great. Then you're on the same playing field. Or if they're in a space where they're like, no, I'm not really interested in that, then that's not the time to have that conversation, which I don't think usually happens between us. But I think that acknowledging that is a really great place to start.
So yeah, so it's like, I want to like encompass this so we can like put it into a clip. So I'm like, the tips for communicating with a business partner, I believe would be open with honesty, which is communicating. I want to have an honest conversation. The second, I think, would be like establishing your relationship. So I usually am like, I love you, or I know this, like we're business partners. Like, who is this about? I establish that this is coming from a place of care and not from a place of like anger or hurt, which if it's coming from a place of anger or hurt, like might not be the best time to speak, but whatever. Third is just, and this is what I do, I just say exactly what I'm thinking. Too often, I think we, especially as women, we like beat around the bush and we're like, well, this one time, like, I know you didn't mean it, but I kind of felt like this. And it's like, just say what you mean and communicate. I'm going to say exactly what's in my head. And then our big line in our business is always like, just walk through this with me. And then we go through it. And most of the time at the other end, it's like, oh, yeah, what I was trying to communicate was actually this.
I really love that you say walk through this with me, because it allows that person to be in it with you and not feel like they're, something's coming at them. It's a partnership. It's alongside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it just takes the pressure away for everyone, right? Because you're like, okay, now it gives us space to like walk through whatever comes up. And it's like, there's no set outcome already, right? Because sometimes you walk into a conversation and you hear something, that's where defensiveness comes from, because you're like, I can see the writing on the wall or the ending, or like, this is the narrative I'm telling myself, right? But if you're like, walk with me through this, right? It implies that you're doing something together and that you're going on a journey.
Well, and I think, yes, exactly. And for me, what it implies is I'm like, I know I'm a character who says what she thinks and sometimes leaves conversations and is like, oh, I didn't mean to say that. I meant to say this. So I feel like what it's given me a tool in my own toolkit. So if you're a girl who's ever been told like you speak too much or you're too much, or you're like, you don't need to say everything in your head. I'm like, it's given me the space to be like, I have to say exactly what I'm thinking. But I'm open to the fact that it might not be right, or it might not be accurate, or I may not have worded it correctly, instead of me just being like, well, you suck. And then it's like, right, like now I can actually go, oh, I didn't mean to say that. I meant to say that you hurt my feelings when this happened. I don't know. That's what I would say.
Well, and I think Erika does a really good job of facilitating and starting hard conversations. I would say that I'm very clunky. Like I'm like,
yeah, she goes like this.
Oh, there you go. I even have
she
a.
Goes like that.
I just need to. This is my.
She'll be like, walk. And we'll say this in business also, like when we, and walk with me through this is how we like also approach. If I brought an idea to her and she's like not there, I'm like, walk with me through this. Or if I'm like, I don't know if this is a good idea, but I'm going to spout off this number. Let's walk through and like look at all the scenarios. Yes. And she'll goes like, okay. When she's like trying to process it.
Holds Does the bridge Erika of my nose.
Have a tell?
Probably, but I can't tell you at this second.
I'm like this. No, I don't know what I'm thinking. Attention. My eyes probably like
it's more like the way you say it, like as soon as like because she communicates a lot with her voice, right? So I'm like when she starts like wherever she goes in the direction of a conversation, I'm like, oh, okay, we're probably going here. Going here.
And we've actually one thing else we've really had to work out on, I think, is you learning my processing. So I'll say to her like, I just need to like talk it out and process it, and it doesn't mean. Because sometimes she'll want to like interject, and then she'll be like, and I'll be like, I just need to like get it out.
Yeah.
And get it out. And then we can like look at it together.
Yeah.
Right.
I love it. Okay. Best tip you have for somebody who is looking to get into a business partnership.
Run for the hills.
Don't. No, do you want to know what? I think CJ and I'm just going to say, I mean, I haven't met, let me restart. I'm trying to think of business partners I've met. I've only met like a handful of them. I feel like really in the same capacity as us who are like so integrated. I mean, I think you have to be really wise. I think you have to be really, really wise with who you pick. CJ and I have a lot of foundational and value belief systems that are the same, which helps us because we like at the end of the day, we come together and we usually are holding the same values, which is like really important. And I do think, I mean, I would preach this in any relationship. Like I'd be like, dating, married, like whatever you're doing, you should probably have like similar belief systems, similar value systems, because otherwise you're just like going to be pulling the other way the whole time. CJ and I often come together and are like, no, we already know the answer to this, or we like know what we want. I would say, yeah, to not necessarily just jump into bed with someone because you like them. Be like, you really need to look at like your strengths, their strengths. Doesn't mean you can't work together if you don't have the same strengths, because we don't, and we're a great team. But to really take time to know thyself, like my dad says, and then to like know the person you're getting into bed with. And like that just to me is like doing life with people. Like I would never recommend just jumping into bed with someone who like you just met and you're like besties for the last 6 months. I'd be like, that to me is like a giant red flag.
The one night stand.
Yeah. Like I'm like, that's no. Like and again, maybe I'm sure there's unicorn situations where people are like, this turned out so well.
Yes.
But I'm like, if you're getting into business with someone because they're like fun, I'm like, that to me is not a good business decision just because someone's fun. Might be a great attribute they have, but I wouldn't like.
No, I think value system is so important. I think outside of probably like your life partner that you choose, right? Like this would be like the equivalent of that or the next biggest thing. And I think people, from what I've seen and heard, like sometimes don't take it seriously enough when they start a business, right? With someone, and they're like, again, really walk into it with rose-colored glasses and they're like, this is amazing. I enjoy this person. This is fun. And it's like, but do you actually have the skill set to like match each other, or like the values, right? Because again, I think that stuff will always come out in the wash.
That's where I think relationships fall apart, when you like don't know going into it what you really want. And there is a level, I believe, of expectations for each other. Like communicate. Like when we started the podcast, I said, I'm not doing this if it's a passion project, or if it's something like we're only going to do like 6 months. Like I was like, if we're doing this, like I'm diving in, and I need you guys to dive in with me. Basically, is I feel like what I communicated, right? So that everyone knew where Erika was at. And then you two could go, I'm not there. I just want to do a passion project. And I would have been like, great, this isn't a fit then. But we all came together and went, yep, these are the goals for our lives. This is what we want.
Well, and I think people need to get really honest. And you said, like your dad said, know thyself, but like really honest with themselves, right? Like, what do you actually want out of this? Like, where do you actually see it going? You know, what do you see the hurdles being? Where do you see the hiccups? Where do you think we're going to have tension or resistance, right? Like, what does this look like for you in 1 year, in 10 years, right? Because again, this is not the type of business that we're really in, but you know, some startups I hear when I listen to podcasts, it's like one partner will want to grow the company and then sell it. And the other will be like, no, this is the company, like this is my baby and I want to hold on to it for forever. I actually am not looking to be a serial entrepreneur.
Right.
And like launch into the next thing. Right. So having that conversation of like what your exit strategy even looks like and what you're wanting from that.
Yeah.
So I think that's what I was trying to say when I'm like, don't just get into bed with someone because you're like, oh, they're smart and they're fun. And like, we have this great idea. I'm like, you really need to dissect, because and CJ already alluded to it. I'm like, other than Nick, like CJ and I should probably be in couples counseling, not in a bad way.
No,
I'm like,
it's
just
true.
everyone should be in therapy and like counseling. But I'm like, because we're so integrated, like our money is integrated. Like that's real intimate, right? So I think it's just so important to evaluate everything and to sit down, seek wise counsel, talk to other people who've been in business, ask the questions. What has surprised you about listen to this episode? What have you learned about your business partner? What are some hurdles you saw that you didn't anticipate? How did you work through them? Prepare that it's not going to be all butterflies and rainbows, because it won't. You'll have hard times, and you need to decide if you want to hitch your wagon to this person. And that sometimes is a hard conversation. And that sometimes is going like back to someone and saying, hey, like, I love you. My love for you is real. Like, we are close, but like, I actually don't know if this is a smart move. And just being okay that sometimes the answer is that person will be really hurt. And sometimes, but like in the end, this is your business. This is like what you're doing. And tying yourself to the wrong person can just be so much pain. so much frustration.
So many consequences.
Yes.
Right? Like financially, mentally,
yes,
like all of the things, right? So be as smart as you can going into it.
Don't take it. I would never take it lightly.
Yeah.
I think we hit a home run right off the bat with her and I, which feels really, really great. And even me saying that, we have stuff that we work through all the time. We have disagreements. We don't always come and see eye to eye. Right. But so it's like even a perfect, quote unquote, perfect situation still has stuff. So just like take it seriously. It's not something I would ever joke about.
My takeaway is we're going to couples therapy.
Great.
I told Nick the other day, I said, I think CJ and I should do therapy.
I think you should.
And he's like,
I think so too.
he's like,
And
how
we
do you
can
think
talk
that would
about it.
go? And I was like, like it all like flashed in front of my eyes. And I was like, I think it'd be fine. I'm like, but
Fine.
the understanding that it would hurt.
Yes.
And then it would be okay.
Yeah.
And I think again, I'm like, you have to go into some of these situations, not being like, we're going to go to couples therapy and it's like going to be great.
No, is therapy ever like?
No, I'm like,
But you get better on the other side.
Yeah.
Well, I think you guys have built such a beautiful foundation, and you've given our audience a really great insight into what it looks like to go into business together and what the actual impact of going into business together with your friend is. And I want to say thank you so much for being transparent and open with us. There's some really great takeaways in this episode, as per usual. So for our listeners who don't know where to find you,
what are you doing?
I guess I literally just thought
you?
about this and I was like, we haven't even said what we do. We just said that we're business partners. Like this whole entire episode, we've been just
We'll
like,
put it
we
in the
said law
intro.
firm at the beginning. And like,
Well,
we haven't actually like
Erika and
defined our job
CJ
description.
Do you know that's funny though? Because yesterday at baseball, I asked this mom, I was like, what do you do? And we were talking, and then she's like, and you're just at home. Like, she wasn't like, you're just at home. She was implying like, I'm home with my kids.
Yeah.
And I was like,
no, I have multiple businesses.
I'm like pretty busy, which she was not being offensive.
Yeah.
We're new to knowing each other.
Yes.
But I was literally like, I'm like so out there, but I realized like you can feel so out there, but if people don't follow you or like quote unquote know you, I'm like, people just think I'm at home.
So what do we do, Erika?
We'll put it in the intro as well. But
We're jugglers.
where can they find you? Where can the people find you?
At Carousel Media Management, and it's CAROUSEL MEDIAMGMT. That's where you can find us sharing like tips and tricks. I don't want to say tips and tricks. This is where you can find us like sharing really great educational posts and concepts about how to further your business with social media. And you can actually work with us too.
Yeah, absolutely. Reach out to us. Book a discovery call. Send a DM. Check out our website.
If you're ready to take your business to new heights,
then you're going to want us.
get on the ride of your life with Carousel.
The rocket ship.
Except it's a carousel. It's like so slow.
And it's CJ's workhorse.
It's a workhorse that's going to take you to outer space.
This is not going fast enough. And on that note, love you guys. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks.
Goodbye.
Thank you everyone for joining us on this episode of the Her Podcast. If you want to follow along with us, you can find us on Instagram and TikTok at its.her.podcast. We can't wait to see you there.
Bye.
Bye. Adios.